Yeah, using a crash choke where you lob the pad front cymbal, so pad on top into the bell of that one. It still
Yeah.
gets a pretty good crash choke sound because it hits the edges, so it bounces.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Flip Up Podcast. Today, we are joined with David Peterson from Rhythm X and Colts.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys once again for the support. And be sure to comment below who you guys want to see next on the podcast. But without further ado, David.
Hey there, what's up? My name's David. I've been marching since about 2013 in high school. I started. Marched a few independent groups. About to age out this next year. I got about one summer, one winter left in me. Uh, I'll start where I began. I started at a high school in Kickapoo, Springfield, Missouri. Marched 4 years there. We had an indoor and outdoor program, kind of in the PSA, PSO area. A lot of fun there. We got some final experience. Weren't crazy good. We didn't have any cymbal tech when we marched there, so we were kind of self-led. A little bit of experience from our nearby independent group called Gateway, which is actually where I started right out of high school. My next indoor season, I went to Gateway and marched an indoor season there. It's up in St. Louis, and that was a blast. Totally blew me out of the water with like learning technique. Like they're really fine tuned compared to what I was doing in high school, which was neat. Then I moved on to Gateway. I got called on there. They had a couple dropouts, and I was like, "You let me audition for that spot," and managed to get a spot. Had the greatest summer I'd ever had. Super neat time. Then I was going to go back to Gateway, but they folded, so I went to Rhythm X. Talked to the cymbal tech there, and they're all right. Come on out. You're getting good. Let's do it. So I went to X for a season, and then surprisingly, I was going to go back to Crossman, but that cymbal line got cut, so I found a spot at Colts, which was great.
Oh, yeah. Wait, hold on a sec. I'm just trying to put you said you went to Gateway over this summer? I don't know if I heard that right.
No, I might admit, no, over the winter. My bad.
I was gonna say I was like Gateway over the summer. I was like,
Yeah.
dang.
Gateway
Oh
Drum and
no.
Bugle Corps.
Oh no.
Yeah. So what you were saying before was Crossman over the summer, and then you went back to Gateway over the winter.
Yeah, I was gonna go back over the winter. Yeah. Yep.
Got you. Cool. Yeah. So when we're filming this right now, ironically enough, guys, David's got rehearsal for X in like 40-ish minutes, which is pretty cool. So what's kind of that been like, doing the whole online thing?
Online is definitely more chill. A lot more time at home working your own stuff. Never. I mean, we never do anything in person besides me and my roommate Bradley, who's also marching the cymbal line there. It's the only contact we have. And then Becca, another member, comes over. She lives in the area as well. But besides that, it's all virtual. We'll have phone calls once or twice a week that last an hour or 2 hours, where we're just kind of brainstorming for a minute and a half piece of music that we have. It's fun. It's definitely way harder to brainstorm as a group when you're over video. I don't know, something that it flows a little bit less well, but we're getting better at it. Our first time doing it, we took about an hour to get 2 bars of visual. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's so weird because I mean we did the whole VDBC thing, and even then it just felt so weird trying to make visuals over webcam. And I mean at GMU we did what did we do, Lucas? We had
I mean, we kind of just had visuals given to us. It was a lot of a shorter time span for this whole thing. So it was like, okay, we had like 3 or 4 Zoom calls, and they're like, all right, here's what you're gonna do. Just go film the videos, make it look good, that kind of thing. It was a lot more chill, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I saw you guys uploaded like part 1 of your show, if that's what it was. You uploaded some video I saw.
Yeah, we've had one video go out so far. We're planning on doing like three totally separate videos where it's like just one video of a minute and 30 seconds basically of this beat that I think it's Josh Bricky that writes it. And then we'll have another
Interesting.
one that, yeah, then we'll have another one coming out in February sometime, and then probably one more around April. We're just kind of like doing whatever, just trying to be good. It's a lot of a recruitment idea, so we're getting a lot of new hands that we're like building up for this next season. So we're ready, even though we've had an off season.
Yeah, there's a lot of new people there. I do have to ask though, are you guys like actually playing the notes, or like do you even have to try with playing the notes? Because it sounded a lot like a MIDI track in the background.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a MIDI track. We could get away with not playing the notes if we wanted to. For a visual, we could play some shifty notes if we really wanted to. We're definitely still trying to keep it clean. Uh, since we have like bass drums and tenors on pads, I figure that's the reason we couldn't get an actual file, because it would sound like pads and
Yeah, and syncing it
odd
all up
rings.
with the snares makes sense.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like what we've been doing, where we record audio, and then we record a video. So the videos aren't necessarily a representation of the playing, but we do play, if that makes sense. So it's two separate files, but yeah, I
With
don't know.
online band, you can kind of bend the rules, especially with cymbals. You could be like, "Oh, there's a sound of a tap joke coming out, but it really does not look like there's a tap joke being played." But you can kind of do whatever you want with this editing and all that stuff.
Yeah, pyro. Yeah, you can have fire now in your show, something that you couldn't have on the floor before. So
Yeah, dude, you can play a sizzle with both of your cymbals like 2 feet apart.
Incredible.
yeah.
It's the future.
Hmm.
So something that David and both Lucas and I share together is, ironically enough, in 2018, both of our lines got cut basically at the same time. I'm just thinking about that now. Like Crossman got cut in after the 2018 season, Cymbal line. Sorry, I should say Cymbal line, and the Madison Scout Cymbal line got cut in 2018 as well, 3 months after the season. So that experience was like both kind of weird. I'm kind of curious on what your input was, David, but it eventually led to, us marching Colts. But I mean, let alone like it just was so weird because it was like Colts just got stacked up automatically because they just got rid of like two very valuable East Coast cymbal lines,
It was
like
it was like the refugees, the cymbal refugees coming to Colts, trying to find a new home.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on that, David?
No, I was definitely super bummed when I got the call, because I was like, I just had the best summer I'd ever had. I was like, oh, I'm definitely going back doing this again. I really enjoyed Crossman. I mean, it's a really good core, run really well. Uh, but I was just chilling, teaching band, and I got a phone call from the new percussion director there. He's like, "Hey, we're actually not gonna have a cymbal line this year. It's a design choice." And I was like, "Well," he's like, "You can be mad at me or anything." I was just like, "I'm not mad. Just what? Why are we doing this?" So I'm not sure fully on his thinking, but not much I could do at that point. Just kind of try to figure out what I'm going to do for this next summer, which
Yeah.
was
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting. Just having to go like have this great summer, and then the core is like, "Yeah, sorry, we're actually not fielding a cymbal line for a design choice."
It's an iconic line too. Like Crossman goes back so many years. That cymbal line.
Yeah, it was. They've had a cymbal line every year until this year. It's one of the few, like us. I think it was Spirit as well, and the SCV were the few lines that had never cut a cymbal line until 2018.
And Colts. I think Spirit
Oh,
has cut their line. Oh, actually
I
no.
might be wrong on
They
there.
they were gonna cut it, but then no. Okay, so the timing was
Oh, he
good,
definitely did.
but they cut it and then brought it back the same
Yeah.
year next year. But in terms of DCI lines or DCI cymbal lines who have been around for ages, SCV is one of them. Crossman definitely one of them. I believe Colts is one of them also. But
That
yeah,
might be true. I think that might be another group that's had it the whole time.
yeah. And once again, I can't speak on West Coast, but I know SCV because I mean, it's been there forever. I mean, that's what SCV is known for, is always having a cymbal line, which honestly Colts needs to be known for that also. But
They
so
gotta
yeah,
win. They gotta they gotta get first place.
yeah. But I mean, tradition's always been there, which is awesome. That's why I love the Colts, and let alone like respect SEV is because they haven't cut it. And I've heard stories, not so much at Colts, but just other places where there's always been talk about new percussion directors or staff changing, and they're just like, yeah, I don't want a cymbal line. But I just think that's so ridiculous. Just getting rid of a cymbal line because of staff choice or quote unquote design choices, like it just makes no sense for that.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, I feel like sometimes percussion directors are like, well, I'm a drum person. This is almost fully unrelated to most things that they're teaching. And so if they don't have a good tech that they're ready to like bank on that's going to have a good line, it's hard to know what's going to come of a cymbal line. Hard to base what you're going to be.
Yeah.
They're just afraid. They don't know that. They don't know what we can do. They're afraid of the symbols. Scared of teaching them.
I mean, there's so much potential that DCI and let alone cymbals could have if, we were utilized more and also people were more interested in our culture. I feel like it's one of those things that it's so foreign. But if you think about also, if we're talking on the East Coast, color guard's pretty foreign. You know what I'm saying? In the sense that it's all visual, if we're talking from a visual standpoint. And then same thing with like drumming, I guess the color guard, like playing and rhythms and stuff like that. Like that's pretty foreign. We're just the best of both worlds. So it's like, it just makes no sense why people don't respect the lines. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, nothing in drum corps makes sense. Like they can't just cut cymbal lines and be like, "Oh, it doesn't make any sense. We don't need them." Like we don't need any of this other stuff. Honestly, it's all ridiculous. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Marching band, except to the extreme. Like they don't need to get all serious about this. Cut cymbal lines, but whatever.
It is what it is. Cool. All right. So here's some topics we got for you guys today. So our first one, hold on a second. Let me go check my notes. All right. So the first one we wanted to talk about was growing the community. This is something we talked about with Brian, actually. He had a very good stance on this idea of community where it's from a social media standpoint, but I want to talk about it from a teaching standpoint because we're from where we've been 10 years ago to where we're at now. There are so many more people that have the knowledge to start teaching, regardless on experience, just people obtaining that knowledge from this person, say this person. The stereotypical like 2000, I've never played cymbals before teaching a cymbal line. Like that concept is basically gone now. It's just faded away. So I guess David, for you, what are your kind of thoughts and ideas on that? Because I know you're teaching a high school right now as well.
Yeah, I'm teaching at the Beaver Creek High School near Dayton, Ohio. PSA group. We're doing some WGI virtual shows this year. It's been a lot of fun. Um, what I feel about teaching is if you're marching an independent group, you should definitely be trying to get out there. If you're comfortable with teaching, I mean, you don't want to do it if you're just like not wanting to do it. But if you're feeling like that's something you can do, if you can teach a high school around the area, just to like give them somebody in front of them to give them critique, that's going to be huge for them. Just like for the kids marching the programs, they'll be able to see like what a good cymbal player can be and how that can be a future for them or something they could try out later. Just by somebody being there, even if it's not often, just having somebody there. It's always great.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. When I graduated high school, I taught a little bit of middle school and very, very small amount of high school, but obviously I was, I was at school that was like 4 hours away from really any close high school that offered a drum line. But with my short little time though teaching, uh, I feel like for me, let alone like just gaining the experience, I felt like my knowledge, like even just the smallest little things, influence in such a small way, and not even just from like a teaching standpoint, but you know how like some some WGI groups, world class, open class, doesn't matter. They'll have these like clinics that you can go to, or let alone auditions. And when I was a senior in high school, I went to one at GMU, and I think that was the thing that like really changed the way I approached the instrument. Like there was so much I didn't know before, and things just started to click for me. That was like the start of things. I felt like if I never did that, oh my lord, I would have been way worse off compared to where I'm at now. It would have been a lot harder to march GMU, let alone. But like I was fortunate enough that I saw that GMU had auditions, but for me, it was considered like a clinic, because I was still in high school. They don't take high schoolers, but
That's probably the same for David, right? When you went to Gateway.
Yeah, I definitely was doing clinics all through high school with Gateway. It'd be like sometime in the January or February most of the time. They'd have a 1 day clinics in St. Louis or Springfield that me and my friends from my high school would go to. And that's where like I would just go there and absorb as much as I could. I'd a lot of times be one of the only few cymbal players there. And I'd bring it back to the high school and try to implement as much as I can just to like up our level and get like, start looking clean. Stuff like that, learn new visuals to teach.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world. I feel like just having like even just one world class member in front of you, that's just like so important because they've been through it all. They've been through the rehearsal process, the audition process, all these other things that as a high schooler you don't think about. So just having that one world class member, or if you're at a camp, being actually part of that and seeing all of them, it just really opens up your mind and you get to learn all these different parts of cymbals and you start focusing on more things and learning more of the intricacies of it, stuff like that. So I think that goes back into what David was saying. If you're a world class member, definitely try and teach if you can because there are so many groups that could use it. Just seeing like that one person there is going to make a huge difference because you become a role model pretty much.
could not be said any better. So I think a lot of people don't know how to ask this question, but I think this is such an important topic. Like for me, I didn't quite understand these concepts until they were more so addressed to me, or uh, when I was being taught at, we'll say, when I was doing online lessons, for example. This is when I started to pick up these ideas of the visual creation process. This is something that I think a lot of people can't really understand the concept of how visuals are created, let alone how do you learn other people's visuals within a timely manner. I mean, because this is something we talked about when it comes to the audition process, is how fast you can apply things. It's so important, let alone for technique. So it does start with technique, but something you should know about the visual creation process is every idea always starts from something. So we started off with a flip up, which led to a down flip, which led to unloads, reloads, buckets. We can keep naming this trend, but the understanding of the basics and the originality, it comes from different ideas. So my question for you, David, is when you're writing visuals, well, let me also say another thing. David has the most insane visuals when it comes to like visuals and like playing something. Like he came
The
up with
tap
this,
choke king.
yeah, the tap choke king. Like he came up with this really weird crash choke we did uh, in 2019 at Colts. So I'm just kind of curious, where do you get your ideas of different sound quality visuals? Because from like my standpoint, when I create them, I like to think of it from a standpoint of like, oh yeah, so playing a tap choke like this makes sense to do a visual that leads into that. But with you, you'll do like a tap choke like behind your back or something like that, something insane like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Uh, One thing I definitely have a good understanding of is like how the tap choke sound is made is by that the most perpendicular angle you can get with those cymbals, and then having the ringing hand and the striking hand. If you can make that anywhere happen, doesn't really matter whether your hands are, as long as one of them can ring, you can make a good tap choke. Just like there's a way to set it up that way. We've done at Colts, we had you and Bradley with a juggle into a tap choke. It's just the cymbal was the ringing cymbal was in the air and the striking cymbal you had control of. And
Yeah.
it's having
Yeah.
a good understanding of like what makes those sounds.
Yeah. But like with you, for example, it's like you get that contact point, but like in 2019, for example, we had that one crash, but the crash wasn't even like front contact. It was like the back of the cymbal. I can't remember.
Oh
Oh, no,
yeah.
no. It was like the
Yeah,
inside
yeah.
of the hand. Yeah.
Yeah, using a crash choke where you lob the pad front cymbal, so pad on top into the bell of that one. It
Yeah.
still gets a pretty good crash choke sound because it hits the edges, so it bounces, and gets that. And I actually learned that originally at Crossman when I was marching there the year prior. I saw we had a crash with the left hand ringing, and the same idea where we just popped the two cymbals together.
That visual definitely shook everyone when we all saw it. I think you guys like it looked like you were slamming your hand into the cymbal. But when I saw that, I was like, "Wait, what?" Because I think that was the first time anyone's ever done the like backwards crash. I don't even know what to call it, inverted crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
Oh yeah. At Crossman, we also had a crash that was really interesting that we popped in somewhere late in the season where we went to high five. So we had the cymbal on the back of our hand, and we played the crash just straight into the other cymbal. So the hands in between the cymbals,
Yeah, that's the
but
one
you
I
get
was
enough
thinking of.
yeah, you get enough front contact that it rings well enough to be a good sounding crash. It looks
Saw it. I was like, "Are you guys
painful.
punching your cymbals?" It's like, "Geez, they're
It
tough."
works. We just tried it out. It happened to work. Don't know how it came along.
Yeah. I mean, we were doing that at Colts, and I was like, man, this is like the dumbest thing ever. You're just hitting your hand into your cymbal. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit afraid of doing it. And then once I did, I was like, wow, this actually works. Like it's exactly what we've been talking about. Like this whole idea of originality, ideas coming from one thing to another, right? This idea of that crash originating from Crossman, but doing it in a completely different manner. That's what I was referring to. This whole idea of originality and concepts coming from another concept, not doing exactly the same thing. I'm kind of curious, where did you get the idea of that backhand thing, or like whoever came up with it on the line?
Uh, with the or the high five into the full cymbal, I
Yeah,
feel like we were just messing around, like trying to write something. I think we were at Trafalgar. It was like pretty late season for
Yeah.
Crossman, Uh, and I was like, man, I can make a crash like this. You think we can make it happen? Because we were trying to write a fun sequence with like some ideas of previous like cymbal techniques, and there's all right, this is real new age. Let's try to toss this into the end of like real crazy. I mean, I was surprised when it worked. Definitely surprised that it didn't hurt. I was like, I would think that it would hurt a lot, but it's painless,
Looks like it
really.
hurts.
Yeah,
yeah.
surprising.
I mean, it's just so crazy. I wish I could just pop up a video of what the crash looks like, but it's just such a weird concept to think about. Just like smacking your hand into the cymbal and then you get a crash. Like it's just so weird to me. I don't know how that worked. I mean, even like when we started creating visuals for the 2020 season at Colts, like you came up with some really really weird crash chokes and tap chokes, and I was just like, dude. I don't know how you do this, but that was the nice thing at Colts also. I feel like we all had our own unique style of visuals. Like, for example, you had this unique style of sound quality implements. And I don't want to speak on everyone else's behalf, but I feel like for me, my visual strengths are how the cymbals move together. So like two-handed visuals, like moving the cymbals together. And going off of that originality idea, I think that began GMU 2018. We had that one visual. What was it, coming in hot, Lucas?
Yeah, we called it coming in hot. It was both cymbals on one hand. Most
Yeah.
stressful visual of all time. Oh my god.
And I just think just from doing that, I have a lot of creative ideas when phrases are longer because I'm just so used to thinking, okay, how can I move them both together while they're connected? Kind of like how they move in gears, something that Brad talked about when we were marching together. This idea of the cymbals kind of moving in like a gear-like manner, how they interact with each other, which I mean, it's just crazy. Well, like when I started thinking of it that way, it was like, whoa, all the puzzle pieces just like fit together.
Yes, the gears, very important. Another thing on this idea of like visuals coming from other visuals that you've kind of built up, it's interesting because at some point there are times where you want to be putting in something brand new, but it's tough because so many things have been done. And it's hard to find that boundary sometimes. I'm like, all right, I know we've seen something very similar to this before, but is it okay to put it in here? And that's something we fight with a lot. We're like, all right, it's tough sometimes, but you got to realize that some connective pieces can be slightly similar or similar to what you've seen before, as long as you definitely have these ideas that are fresh and new and like open and world class, trying to push those boundaries, having these new ideas in between things that are still interesting, maybe added interest by doing two-handed motions.
Yeah, and kind of the way you put it together. I know, definitely. I think one idea of visual making is thinking of it more as a phrase rather than just the one visual idea. Like I remember Brian talked about that a lot, where it's not more of just like, oh, we have this one really cool thing, or we have this one thing that we're going to take from this other group. It's the whole phrase as an idea. So if you can take that one thing, maybe make it like an homage to another group and just do it like go in a completely different direction with the whole visual phrase.
I mean, this leads pretty well into my next idea, which is the whole visual creation process. You know, how are you able to apply things that you see going on around you, right? Because, like I said in an earlier podcast, I referred to how in Colts in 2019, we all had this very distinct style on the line. Like like I was even saying just now, like we all have our own visual expertise. Like David, yours was sound implements. Mine was how two cymbals kind of moved together, like connected in a sense. So I'm just kind of curious because they're two different ways, and me and Lucas have our own kind of input on how to apply things pretty fast. But what is your approach so that you can just learn someone else's visual really fast?
Now, when I'm trying to learn a visual, moving the hands constantly, like as soon as you have an idea of what you're going to, finding that ending position and the starting position, and just lobbing them or doing what you think is happening until it typically clicks. Or if you're being worked with, if somebody's watching you, you'll just do it, and they're like, not quite. Do it, not quite, until eventually they're like, that's the one. You just got to remember exactly what you're doing each time, so you can try to do that right away next time. For applying our first time learning something.
Yeah, something that originated from Scouts in 2018. We came up, and we even talked about it in Colts, I remember, but we came up with this concept called the keys to success. And what the keys to success were basically, think of it almost like the little short like tips and tricks to help you succeed in the visual. So for example, let's say we were doing a very long structured phrase, right? And say said counts from 1 and 2, you're having a hard time applying those things or getting in context. Basically, the members who are able to achieve it, they have like these keys almost on how to execute it. And it would almost be this like trickling effect, right? Where they say the keys, then they apply the keys, and then some other member per se might be like, oh yeah, I have these keys on how to do this. And that's just the way that has always worked for us, and that's how we've been able to come up with visuals and just apply them immediately almost. And I feel like we did that really well at Scouts, Lucas, and at Colts, David. Like just being able to point out those little nuances that were maybe difficult for one person, uh, and being able to just apply them immediately because we all explain these little details that help us achieve them. Being able to be aware of everything going around and what's happening with your body, and being able to connect to everyone else on that level.
Yeah, and it's a team effort really because you may not be struggling, but if you see someone else is struggling, you could start thinking a little bit more about what you're doing, and then you find a key and then you can share it with them. You'd be like, oh, try thinking about moving your elbow out, or try thinking about pushing more with the thumb. And then that might be the key that they need. So they're like, oh, thank you. And now I can do it. So it's more of like a team effort kind of thing, which really helps as like the whole line gets to grow.
I'm just kind of curious, David, from 2019, what was probably I'm not even gonna leave it to 2019. Your whole marching career, what has been the hardest visual for you to learn? Maybe not so much if you can't explain what it was, but I guess give the context of it.
A visual that took a long time to learn was at Colts. We had this motion that was it was a tracer with two hands. We had to come around while rotating both hands at that time and then catching. That one took a long time to get like locked in and precise where the cymbals lined up and then locked at the same time. It was a really difficult connecting idea with two hands.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Early on in my career, like when I was still in high school, I remember that egg beater took me probably, I mean, just like a foy behind the back. I probably worked on that for 20 minutes I was at a Crossman audition clinic kind of thing, and people working with me trying to give me the keys to figure out what I need to do to make it happen, where it's just like getting the actual rotation to come out.
Yeah.
Classic, absolutely classic. Well, with that, that is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you, David, for being here. And as always, we have our final question for you, Jaden, if you'd like to do the honors.
No, I'll leave this one to you this time.
Okay. Mr. David, if you have anything you'd like to say to the Cymbal community right before you go, what would it be?
Now that it's warming up, get outside, throw some cymbals, get some juggles in, watch videos and figure that out. Juggling is the future.
All right, okay.
With every guest we've had on, everyone has said something different, but
Yeah.
it's like so true,
It's always good.
Yeah, I mean, someone said flip harder, and it's just like, dude, could not be
Brian
said
was like,
better.
watch your prep or something like that. It was really funny.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Once again, thank you, David, for being on the podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. As always, let us know who you want to see on the next episode. I mean, wouldn't be the next episode because we got stuff recorded already because we're like that. But whoever you want to see in the future, keep us updated. Comment below. Reach us anywhere. We're always paying attention even when you don't think we are. We see everything on the internet in the sense of cymbal playing, So it's that whole community. Like even if you think you don't know someone, you do know someone. So cool. Hope you guys are enjoying your spring, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of the podcast.
See ya.